Welcome back. Today we are going to have a little chat about Archon Studios' latest GameFound campaign, which is Dungeons & Lasers 6 Caves. Funnily enough, this video is sponsored by Archon Studio, but then again, I don't think you're that surprised about that, given how completely addicted to the Dungeons & Lasers terrain I am. And look, I'm not going to say it's a problem. A lot of it's painted. Like, we've got a big box. Over there, right? Which is full of painted Dungeons & Lasers terrain. It's really quite full. It's really quite heavy as well. It's getting to the point where lifting it off the shelf to get what I need is becoming something of a challenge. Now, you could argue that I simply should lift more outside of lifting nerd stuff, but you're probably right in that. But it is also quite a heavy box because there's a lot in there, alright? Okay? It's very condensed. It's very condensed down. There's also loads just like all over there. We're not going to talk about those bits. The bits that aren't painted. The bits that you could be sitting there going, well, I mean, you are being sent stuff by Archon Studio for doing these videos with, so therefore, clearly you must have quite a bit of stuff. Yes, in some senses, yes, you are correct. In other senses, it's entirely my own fault, because it's not like I only have stuff they've sent me, I also have a lot of stuff that I bought myself, and a considerable chunk of that stuff that I've got myself is what is currently awaiting my attention. Let's move on. So, something that I like about Archon Studio is that quite frequently I will sit there and I'll go, you know what, it would be nice if they did X. X being perhaps when they did encounters. Not long before that campaign was announced, I was sitting there thinking, well, I've got all the stuff I could need to make a town with a complete sewer system underneath. That's fantastic. But I'd quite like some stuff in the same vein, which I could use for just general outdoorsy adventures, woodlands, swamps, that sort of thing. And then they did encounters. And now, I'm looking over there and not over there, because I haven't painted it yet. Now, they've done that. I have that available to me, if only I would get round to finishing it. But, once we had encounters, a little part of me was like, that's really cool. Something else that would be cool is if we could have, like, a full cave system. I'm not going to lie, I was getting a bit jealous of places like Dwarven Forge, for instance. They've got a big, elaborate cave system that you can build out of their stuff, and I kind of wanted the same thing from my, like, D&D terrain manufacturer of choice. Which is one of the many reasons that I'm very happy about this particular campaign. I say many reasons, because it's not just caves and multiple types of caves. No. It's also the fact that, should the desire take me, I would be able to get those caves and not have to paint them myself, which is frankly brilliant. This is the GameFound campaign, and as you can see, Dungeons & Lasers 6 Caves, there is also a little bit of fun monster action going on, especially with the fact that if you follow it and then back it, you will get a gelatinous cube. And frankly, the gelatinous cube is adorable. They sent me one, I love it, it is my new favourite thing, I want more. As you'd expect, the caves are modular and they're completely compatible with all of the other Dungeons & Lasers terrain that they've done. So if you wanted to, for instance, create a dwarven mine, an abandoned dwarven mine that leads to a horrendous cave system full of monsters that then leads to, I don't know, some sort of underground cult temple, you can absolutely attach all of those maps together and make it one long, seamless experience. Also, I don't know how much you'll care about this, but I really care about it. They've made curved walls for the caves. I love that. I have been wanting curved walls on the Dungeons & Lasers stuff for a little while now, and seeing it arrive in the caves makes me kind of hopeful for the future, but also just very happy with the fact that you can have a proper natural kind of flow to whatever you're making. Now you can see from the preview here that you get quite a lot. You can build a good-sized map. 15 sprues, 92 pieces. Like, this is not a little tiny bit of terrain. This is a good amount of stuff. And it's not just normal, like, rocky caves either. You can have something a little bit more barbaric, a bit of chaos-looking stuff, spiked skulls, chains, that sort of thing, if that takes your fancy. Or you can go really gross with it and have something covered in sinew, intestines, guts, eyes, warts. Awful. Gross. I mean, I like it, obviously, but it's still gross. But it's meant to be gross, so it's fine. Like, they're doing a good job. Ugh. There's also an absolute shed load of sub-themes as well, so like Goblin Lairs, Chambers of Agony, which, I mean, 10 out of 10, love the cages, absolutely fantastic. You can do some good old human sacrifice at the ritual site, or push people down a big living hole, and let's maybe, how do we rephrase that? Let's just move on. Because one of the big draws for this campaign is the fact that those cave core sets and some legacy sets can be delivered pre-painted. All you need to do is snip them out of the frames and you are ready to go, and frankly that takes a lot less time than painting them from scratch. Trust me, I know, I have done enough of it myself. One of the questions that you might well be asking though is just how good is the pre-painted stuff? Like, when it comes to painting it yourself, you have options. You decide how you want to paint it, you decide how much time goes into it, you decide how much effort goes into it, how much detail goes into it. But if you are buying it pre-painted, will that match what you would expect from something that you would do yourself, or does it, in some cases, perhaps exceed what you would be prepared to do yourself? I think it's fair to say that for me personally, some of this stuff is exceeding what I would do, and in fact exceeds what I've already done. So if we take a look at some of the pre-painted frames, we've got some for the cave system. Now the cave system, I don't mind this colour scheme, but it's not one that I would have picked personally, and when I painted the unpainted frames for that particular set, I chose a totally different colour scheme, something that I would be more comfortable with. When it comes to the Abomination Vault and the Dwarven Mine, however, both of those were painted exactly as I would do it, but especially in the case of the Abomination Vault, I think they actually did a slightly better job than I did. You can see here with a little comparison between the two that whilst the idea is similar, whilst I basically copied what was on the box, I didn't quite go as far as they did. The pre-painted version of the Abomination Vault has got little touches that I just didn't think to put on mine. Little stains here and there, different colours on the candles, adding a bit more of a glow to certain elements of the walls. These are all things that I thought looked fantastic, but I didn't actually do myself, which I feel like I should have done, and I'm tempted to go back and try and make mine better now. But something else that has really stood out to me looking at the pre-painted version of the Dwarven Mines is just how consistent it is. Now, I will say, it's not perfect. There are little things here and there that aren't quite 100% there. I'm talking things like the torches having a little line of black down one side. But frankly, that compared to the fact that I didn't have to do any painting to these at all to have them at the standard they're at now, kind of makes me not care so much about those little issues. The fact is that the Dwarven Mine looks absolutely fantastic. There are ripples in the water, both clear and muddy. There is a nice amount of different colouring and texture going on with the stones. The wood is really consistent all the way across. The fact that you have ambient lighting effects, perhaps stronger than I personally would have done, but still there, kind of means that little things like, oh, there's a little black line on the torch, I don't care about that, because this is so much quicker to get out of the box, snip out and put together, than for me to sit and paint this set. I mean, it's just blowing me away how much time I could save by just buying these pre-painted. And I'm saying that as someone who, by the way, quite enjoys painting these sets. Like, there's something quite therapeutic about dry brushing a load of scenery in a way that, you know, detailing a small model just isn't. I wouldn't have a problem with painting everything that I currently have, but the fact that the option to not have to paint future sets is there, I'm really heavily leaning towards it just because of how much time it will save. And the thing is, I care enough about what my maps look like for D&D that if these didn't look any good, if they did look, well, mass-produced, then I wouldn't be as keen as I am. But the fact is that when it comes to especially the Dwarven Mines and the Abomination Vault so far, they look better than the ones that I've done. They look like they've had more care and attention placed on certain details than I actually put into my own. Now, of course, you can put as much effort and detail as you want to into any amount of painting, but when it comes to mass painting or batch painting scenery, for me, I'm often looking at that that split line, that border between economy of time and quality of finished product. Can I get away with painting this quickly, filling in a few details, and then having it ready to go, as opposed to, do I have to sit here and painstakingly paint every stone a different colour to give it that variety that it needs? I would always angle towards having a more uniform look, but spending less time on the project. Whereas with the pre-painted stuff, they don't need to do that. They have a professional painter paint an unpainted frame, and then they duplicate that paint job across subsequent frames using what they call their Prismacast technology. That basically means that you are getting all the hard work and all the time investment of doing one really good version, but across the entire box without having to actually have that time investment yourself. And frankly, with how much stuff I have to paint on just a weekly basis that I never get around to, I cannot stress how much I need this, frankly. Now, it's all well and good waxing lyrical about how much time this will save and just how good the paint job actually is on these pre-painted frames. The question is also one of price. Luckily, they have kind of answered that themselves with this comparison chart. Now, admittedly, I've never come across any Dwarven Forge stuff in the wild. I have come across Warlock tiles in the wild, but, I mean, when it comes to the price of it, you are getting significantly more for your money when it comes to the Dungeons and Laser stuff. You just are. You're getting wider coverage, more parts, more pieces, and for less in the case of the Warlock tiles. Now, of course, if you do go for the unpainted version, which you might well want to do, you might decide that whilst that all looks good, you want to save that extra money and you want to put that towards paints and do it yourself. Well, funnily enough, I did get some unpainted frames for the Rocky Caves. Now, just before we get into this, because I mentioned dry brushing terrain, this is the quickest I've ever dry brushed any terrain in my entire life. I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain, a little bit of how the sausage is made here, right? So, I wanted this video to be out for today. As in today, the 12th of March, today. I wanted it to be out today. However, the box containing all of this lovely stuff arrived fairly late on Friday, and I was unable to really do much with it on Saturday and Sunday due to looking after my two girls, because apparently you can't leave under 10s to just do whatever they like for 48 hours. That's not allowed. I don't know why. I'm sure they'd be fine. But it did mean that yesterday and today has been somewhat of a rush to getting all of this together, which is why I'm sure you're amazed at the overall quality of this video, given the time crunch I put myself in to get it out for now. Yeah? No? No, probably not. I managed to paint the 3 sprues of Rocky Caves in about 25 minutes, which is not too bad, and all it took was a giant brush, some grey and some white, having sprayed it with some very fast-drying Halford's black primer. And if you're looking to absolutely blitz through painting these caves, should you go for the unpainted option, then this is the way to do it, right? This is the way to do it. It's not pretty, it's not massively full of detail, you are only getting 3 shades of black, grey and white, but you know what? It looks like rocks to me, and that is the most important thing of all. What it looks like to me. Not what it looks like to you. To me, alright? It's me. It's my stuff. It's my stuff. You can't make me paint better. You can't make me. I'm not really sure what happened there. Let's just move on. So, Dungeons and Lasers 6 caves. Not just caves. Not just underground goodness. But also pre-painted. Pre-painted at a reasonable price, where you get an absolute shed load of scenery for your money. And it's, in my specific case at least, of a higher standard and more imaginative than what I did. Going to be out of a job, except painting isn't my job. So really, I'm just getting time back, which is, I think, a win for me. Thank you very much for watching. There is a link to the campaign, both in the description and in the pinned comment down below. Do take a look and see what you think. And join me in hoarding all of the Dungeons and Lasers terrain, because you can never have too much D&D terrain. You can only have just slightly less than what you need. That's what I've found anyway. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.